With our next guest, which I'm very happy to have here today, we are going to set on a journey to the ancient Jerusalem of thousands of years ago. My next guest is Dr. Joe Uziel, one of the top researchers at the Israeli Antiquity Authority. Israel's authority in charge of the country's antiquities sites, research, excavation, preservation, conservation, and education. Dr. Uziel nowadays is heading the Dead Sea Scrolls unit, but for the majority of his life, he's been excavating in Jerusalem and especially in the Tower of David. Hello, Joe, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
It is great to have you here with us on the show. I'm really excited about the journey that we're gonna you're gonna take us on to Jerusalem. And my first question to you is about Jerusalem. You've been, as I said, you've been working most of your life, a long time in Jerusalem, which is the holiest and certainly one of the most intriguing and important cities of the ancient world. Tell us about your work in Jerusalem. How is it to work in such an important place?
Well, working in Jerusalem is just amazing, and it happens from a lot of facets. First of all, the city has so much history. I mean, we're talking about a city that began over 3,000 years ago. Um, it has so many different cultures that have been part of that city, be it Islam, be it Christianity, be it Judaism, and prior to that being the capital city of the kingdom of Judah, uh, makes it such an important site for so many people around the world that being able to touch its past, expose it, learn about it in a way that is not brought to us by a historian who basically works his own thoughts into the history. History is very, very subjective, but brought to us by the people who lived there, who left behind their remains, who left behind the buildings without the intention of us finding those things. And that makes it incredible for us to be able to basically, in an unaltered manner, be able to expose its past. The fact that we're able to relay this past to the greater public and have it be important to them makes it all the more important.
Amazing. Thank you. And I know you've been involved in so many projects, but I'm going to ask you, a difficult question. If you can name one, what was the most special project that you participated in?
Well, that's a very difficult question to answer because really, it's so much of it is so special. But I can tell you about one of the most unique projects because of the unusual setting of it, and that's the exposure of the stepped street of Jerusalem, which basically some 2,000 years ago led thousands and thousands of pilgrims who arrived in the city from its southern gate through the Silwan pool at the southern end of the city and had them climb in their pilgrimage all the way up to one of the entrances into the Temple Mount. And we've exposed a very, very long section of this street. The street is some 8 meters wide at its narrowest point, and we exposed a couple of 100 meters of it, but we know that it ran for some 600 meters. And the stones are as if they were put down yesterday. And it's just amazing to uncover them and then see what covered them over, which is the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD by the Romans, which left such a stamp on the city's past.
I've been to this excavation site and I can testify from my own experience that it is really, I would say, thrilling and exciting to be there. You really feel the history. I know that it's been published in the newsletters in Israel and also across the world about some interesting findings from the last years. So, can you please elaborate a bit on the most breakthrough findings of the recent years?
Well, I think one of the biggest exciting moments that we've had in the past few years actually deals with the moments after that destruction, the Roman destruction that we just mentioned. We were excavated for several years beneath Wilson's Arch, which is a stone arch still standing completely today, built in the Second Temple period 2,000 years ago. And we were expecting to find that same street. However, after the destruction, someone actually dismantled the street there and had a small theater built beneath this arch. And we exposed a small theater from the days when Jerusalem was a Roman colony by the name of Ilia Capitolina. And this is the first theater or theater-like structure that have been exposed in Jerusalem. And one of the most amazing things about this theater or theater-like structure is that it was never completed. And we suggest carefully that the reason that it wasn't completed is because the Roman legion, who had occupied Jerusalem at this time, had to leave and deal with a second Jewish revolt known as the Bar Kokhba revolt. And so this is a very nice link between archaeology and history.
I think this link is so interesting because you get to bring the past into our days, into the present and the future, of course. And speaking of the future, I also learned that you are bringing the future to the past as you have been applying advanced methods in archaeology in your research. And I'm interested to learn about what is the difference between the excavations and archaeology in general, I don't know, 100 years ago and nowadays with all the innovation and the tech that we can take with us to the past?
Yes. Well, we don't even have to go 100 years back. We can even go 10 years back, and we're doing a completely different science. Archaeology has integrated and applied many, many new analytical methods, which we can use in the field to learn about things that past excavators had no way of knowing. Just to touch upon a couple of these, I can mention the extended use of radiocarbon dating or carbon-14 dating that we've applied to the field. This has been groundbreaking in terms of the history of Jerusalem, where we've changed the dates of major monuments that we thought were built in one period, and we've moved them by a millennium thanks to radiocarbon dating. And another aspect is, for example, residue analysis. It's a complicated way of saying I can go into the little pores in a ceramic vessel and know what was inside those pores and tell you what was inside that vessel. And this can teach us a lot about trade between sites, about cultural preferences, and there's so much to learn in this sense. So we're constantly applying new things that are coming out.
Joe, I must tell you, your work is fascinating and I'm a bit jealous. Tell me, I have to ask you, what was personally, sentimentally, the most exciting find that you found?
Well, you know that archaeologists are always going to hate this question. We're emotionally attached to everything we find. But I think that I can say for myself, at least, that when I find finds that contain writing, they're always the most exciting. And if I speak about writing, I can't avoid but speak about writing on small pieces of clay known as boule, which were used to seal documents. And on these little pieces of clay, we have the names of officials written in ancient Hebrew writing dating back 2,700 years that sealed these documents. These were the officials running the administration in Jerusalem in the First Temple period. And being able to know those names, sometimes those names even appear in the biblical text. So we have a very, very special connection here. And it's just exciting to be able to sort of make that emotional connection with someone who lived in Jerusalem 2,700 years ago.
We've been talking a lot about Jerusalem and your work in the Holy City, but I want to congratulate you on your new position heading the Dead Sea Scrolls unit. And I know it's been a huge change for you. And the Dead Sea Scrolls exhibition was here, by the way, in Los Angeles a few years ago to a great success. So I would like you to elaborate a bit on the Dead Sea Scrolls and your work over there, and what made you make this change.
I think if you ask just about anyone dealing with the world of archaeology, what the most important find archaeologists have made in the land of Israel, I think the large majority, and I'm talking well over 95%, will tell you the Dead Sea Scrolls. And that's because we have a group of documents. And, you know, a lot of times people think of the Dead Sea Scrolls as just the 7 scrolls that are displayed in the shrine of the book, but we actually have roughly 1,000 manuscripts that are made up of 25,000 fragments. So we're talking about a huge collection, and they are written documents that tell us the stories of the people who lived in the desert and also bring us the earliest copies of the biblical books that we have to date. And so I think that the draw to this was very, very obvious. It was an opportunity to be able to deal with the most important find ever made in Israel. And we're not done finding things. Roughly a year ago, we published in the press the discovery of fragments of biblical scrolls dating back some 2,000 years that were just found now in an operation by the Israel Antiquities Authority in the desert.
I guess we can have another full episode just about your work with the Dead Sea Scrolls. And we'll do that. I'm sure we'll do that. But for now, our time is up. And I want to thank you, Joe, for taking us on this important and fascinating journey to ancient Jerusalem. We wish you a lot of new excavations and a lot of new findings and breakthrough findings in the region. And please, if you find something interesting, let us know. We'll do an exclusive here on JLTV. Thank you, Joe.